Although, personally, because I was bullied mercilessly in high school, and then, well, I got over it because after a year, the bullies just stopped. But what I find really weird is that today people will say, see, bullying built your character. You're so much stronger now. And that's when I want to get this sword and cut off all their heads. Because I don't think there is any good that comes out of bullying. The world has gone bonkers. We now live in George Orwell's 1984. War is peace, ignorance is strength, and crazy is normal. How do you stay sane? Jeannie Goulbourn is the first RTW designer for the large scale in the Philippines. She's now better known as a mental health advocate through her NGF Foundation, which creates programs for emotional resilience and operates a helpline for people with emotional psychological problems. Thank you very much for joining us. You look fabulous as always, and I guess you're wearing Jeannie Goulbourn.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us a bit about how you got into the fashion industry, because I remember the very first designer outfit I ever had, which I bought for my high school graduation ball, was a Jeannie Goulbourn. So you have always been in my consciousness.
My aunt really wanted me to be a designer.
That's
to take over
Salvation Lim
Slims.
Higgins, yes.
Yes, to take over Slims in the couture business. But I know how difficult it was. I would watch her come back home at 4 in the morning, and I thought, I don't think I can do that. So ever since I was a young person, a young girl, I always dreamt about being a mother of 6 kids.
Wow.
So I thought, that's gonna be too much for me as a career. So I wanted to be a scriptwriter. So I took up psychology, journalism, and short story writing.
Okay.
In between, I loved philosophy. And then I got into the fashion industry, but my first job was really writing, editing for McCall's magazine in New York. So I felt I merged both. So I had full
you've
freedom.
always been in the creative arts with a psychological bent.
Yes. Because you have to understand what your readers want.
Exactly.
What is a good seller among the articles that are printed.
And in the last decade or so, you've become a high-profile wellness advocate, particularly mental health. So how did this happen?
When my daughter took her life, I looked at the work that I was doing. She was 27. By then, I had been working for SM for 28 years. I did 3 more years, and then nothing meant that was meaningful to me anymore. So I decided I've got to think of something. I was requested by a very beautiful man who I admire thoroughly, Dr. Ricardo Soler, who was a psychiatrist but gave up psychiatry to become a businessman.
Okay.
So Ricky told me, Jean, you owe this country a foundation that can help others, because suicide might become the #2 killer in year 2024.
Wow, okay.
And he told me that 14 years ago. And I backed out and I said, you may look at me as strong, but inside me I'm still very weak. Then another lady who took care of me when I was over-medicated, Dr. Christine Gonzalez, was a naturopath doctor. She said, Jean, you pray hard and you look if this is your mission. One day I went on a boat trip to get over my pain on the 48th day after Natasha.
Yes.
And I asked the Lord, it's either you and I will fight and I'll find another religion. I think I'll give up being Catholic, but I love being that. Just show me the dolphins. And when you show me the dolphins, I'll make up my mind.
Okay.
So I saw 128 dolphins.
That's
that was my
pretty
aha.
sure sign.
In prayer, I did realize that it's a mission. So I did the first year of Natasha Goulbourn Foundation. We were able to raise enough money to go to Hong Kong.
So your first subjects that you helped were
Was the OFW.
the OFW community of Hong Kong.
Yes.
Yes. And let's go back a bit. You mentioned that you were not strong.
Yes.
And that you were still, recovering.
Right.
And it seems to me that it's the people who have to keep this facade of strength and being completely self-possessed who really have issues to work out. They don't admit their weakness.
Right.
And so when you have to put up the front of strength, that is actually going to make your life harder. So really it's about accepting.
Accepting.
Yes.
So I really said, I can't move yet. So it took me another 2 years to decide to put up the foundation.
Yes.
I had to be strong. I had to be prepared. And the beauty about today is that
there's a lot of awareness
Yes.
of the problem.
Yes. So it's also lessened, and I was able to cross the barrier because I had the good luck of having Stanford doctors help me with lectures for 4 years.
Yeah, what we have learned from the deaths of people like Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, is that their lives seemed to be really together. They had the sort of lives that we aspire to. Of course, everybody wants to be like Anthony Bourdain, going around the world, having fun meals with everyone he meets. But then it turns out that he had some very private pain that was unexpressed. And so maybe he did not get the sort of help that he needed. So tell us about what the NGF Foundation does.
Aside from Hope Line, we do create programs. And my program that I really put together as a journalist, this is where my journalism skill comes in, and my work of 5 years in the magazine. I'm able to pull out different doctors from different hospitals. I mix the psychiatrists, psychologists, and guidance counselors. But what I put in that people don't really know is very important. I put in food and nutrition as the #1 preventive. Currently, I'm barraged with a lot of calls for help.
Yes.
Now, in the
So
Hope
this
Line,
is a 24-hour.
yes, the Hope Line is 8 hours.
Okay.
I did it for 2 years, but the past 3.5 years, it's been in the hands of Department of Health.
Okay.
At that time, Secretary Ubial. And in a way, it's wonderful that it's in the hands of National Center for Mental Health, because then we show the other countries that we're not left behind.
Yes, and it's an official acknowledgement
Yes.
that it is a problem, that it is an issue that has to be addressed.
But you know, Jessica, what happened 8 years ago when we just opened to what it is today, it's quite different. But one thing remains the same, and it panics me sometimes when I wake up at 3 in the morning and I say, what am I supposed to do? It's the issue on family relationship. That's really #1.
So that's the #1 reason that people call the Hope Line.
Yes, it's love. It's all about love. #2 is normally romantic love. You know?
So #1 is issues with family.
Family.
And then next it's issues with romantic relationships.
Yes. And the third is bullying.
Bullying, yes.
The corporate bullying is a real story.
Really?
It's not only about in the school. It's kind of moving away and isolating that particular person by a group of people. That's one of the methods, and that's one of the techniques of bullying, or showing in Facebook. So one of my biggest fear is that we are the country with the biggest text, and we also love Facebook, jokes. We show our kissing someone so in
We
love.
overshare.
And that begins to be a problem, because there's this, oh, my friends are better than me. Every summer they go to Europe. They
Yeah,
go
and
to
then you
this.
look at people's social media, you see that their lives
Yes.
seem so fabulous, and then you
Yes.
compare them. It's like, why am I miserable when everyone
Correct.
is in Saint-Tropez?
Yes.
So-
So it's this lack of self-esteem, like lack of self-worth,
Yes.
that can happen through this browsing through the social media, through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Because when people talk about social media, they always say something about presenting their best selves, not aware that their best selves are actually causing the pain of comparison to
Yes.
people who are troubled.
Right.
And then you mentioned Facebook, which leads to our other topic. Recently, there was this very highly publicized, well, basically somebody killed himself live on Facebook. And
A
my
musician.
fear is that this is going to trigger a whole lot of copycat suicides because was this the newspapers follow a WHO guideline that discourages them from reporting suicides because there is always the danger of people imitating
It's
copycat
true.
suicides.
It's true.
But you cannot regulate the social media. And so you can be, sitting at home and you open it and somebody has sent you a video of someone killing himself. So how do we prevent a kind of epidemic of suicide after that?
The schools and the corporate, the HR, have to be really alert. They have to face it and hold meetings, conferences. That's why the team of doctors that willingly work with me so beautifully, they were on call because corporations were calling us for that. Yes, it can have copycats, and during the Bourdain, one hospital within 48 hours had 39 suicide attempts. I didn't know that Bourdain had a huge following in the Philippines. I didn't know.
Especially in the Philippines because he's actually
And a fan club.
He's actually done shows in the Philippines. So
Yeah, I didn't know.
So we were talking about the three issues so far. So that's family relations,
Love.
romantic problems, and then bullying, and then what is next?
Fourth and fifth, it sways, is gender issue.
What do you mean?
Well, there's more and more young people coming up and saying to their parents that I prefer to be a girl and I want to dress up as a girl.
Yes.
But they're boys. And so it's difficult for parents to accept,
Of
especially if they belong to a very, very serious
Conservative.
Catholic family. And so sometimes in their embarrassment and actually angst
Yes.
to tell their family, they opt to do self-harm.
I find it very strange that in families where they have to deal with their child coming out as trans, the main emotion that comes through is not, this is my child that I love and I must support him, but they're more interested in thinking, ano na lang ang sasabihin ng ibang tao, which I
Yes.
find really bizarre.
I think in Asia, I wouldn't say it's only the Philippines.
It's
because
it's
I've
an
worked
Asian
in Hong Kong.
cultural
It's
trait.
an Asian thing. What will others think of us?
Saving face.
Saving face. Yep, you're right. So I don't know how we can cross that cultural barrier of being just authentic and being accepted for what we are. My only concern is I have a 6.5-year-old granddaughter who's very, very intelligent and very observant and very sensitive, intuitive and sensitive. She notices all of this. How do we explain as adults and make her feel that everything is morally correct? And we never make a judgment in front of these young people. Everybody has a choice and must be given the freedom of choice.
But in many ways, the Philippines is judgment central, where everything you do is judged and everything is just aggravated by the social media, where instead of being judged by one or two people, you are now judged by thousands of people you might not even know.
So this is a difficult phase
Yes.
for our new generation because everything is a quick fix.
Yes.
In love affairs, everything is quick.
So, so your friend who said that suicide might be the number 2 cause
It
of
is
death.
going to be.
It sounds like
It's heading that way. We
he
have
is right.
about 7 suicide a day in the Philippines.
Wow.
4 to 7.
Is that high compared to the rest
It's
of
high.
the world? Why is that? Is it because we do not take the problem seriously enough, or is it because there's still a stigma attached to?
Okay, if you had a son who was in the medical field, would you rather he become a surgeon or a psychologist? A surgeon earns very well. It could be financial.
It's an
And
economic
I think-
choice. Yeah, and also you mentioned that insurance companies do not cover
No.
mental health.
No, doesn't cover yet. And so with the MH Act, this is the meeting I wish to have with some of those who are the writers, and they are aware. I've been pushing for psychiatric help as part of the insurance package for the corporate world. Why? Because 8 out of our 10 callers are very concerned how much it will cost them to go to a professional.
So let's go to the basics then. How do you know if someone is depressed? Or how can you tell if you're depressed? Mali mo, you're just sad.
There is a line.
What is the line?
The doctors say it so regularly, but I look at it from many angles. Okay, so for instance, one of the signs of depression is absolutely lack of sleep. That's what my daughter suffered, Natasha. For 7 months, the girl was sleeping 3 to 4 hours, going to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, and waking up at 11. Because at that point of time, she owned her own business. She was a handbag designer. After working for Ralph Lauren and Nine West, she thought she'd like to start it on her own.
Yeah.
Looking back, probably her feeling of self-worth got low when during an exhibit, she was expecting big amount of orders. It was quite small, hardly enough to cover the cost. So she called me up and she said, "Mom, how did you make it at 28 years old? You were a designer of SM, and at 31, you were selling big quantity.
The biggest seller, yeah.
I'm 27, and I'm not even on the first ladder of how you did it. What did you do?" Right away, I told her, it has nothing to do with what happened to me. I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
there
some
was
of
no
these things are just
RTW.
luck. Yeah.
Right. So I said, no, you just have to be patient. How could you be so impatient? So she passed on away on May, but that coming September, we were supposed to have a very big exhibit in Italy for her. So for us, that she did this was quite a sudden, a very unexpected act. Then part of it is looking at oneself and saying, I'm not really pretty. Self-deprecation. I have to look better. Maybe I need new braces. So this lack of self-assurance that you're okay. It's not about how you look. One of the strongest signs is relationship. They become difficult to deal with. They become argumentative. There are the mood swings. For people who are depressed, they lock themselves in the room
They
for
can't
3
get
days.
out of bed, yeah.
Either they sleep too much or they don't sleep at all. And if they go get out, they're suddenly in a happy mood. They want to party, they want to dance, they want to go out dating. All of this are symptoms and signs. And unless a mother or a parent, so that's one of the reasons why I said yes to opening the foundation. I don't want to see any mother or father go through what happened to me and my husband.
Well, in my case, my primary sanity maintenance program is to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep every single day. So my question is the inability to sleep a symptom or a cause
Can
of
be both.
depression? Could
Can be both.
Both.
I teach a lot of 3 methods and techniques when I give on the sleep.
Yeah.
So it's not, sometimes we used to say it in the olden times, insomnia.
Yes.
It can be insomnia, but it has to be, really, really understood. Is it the job that keeps you awake?
Yeah,
are you on
I
a
think
4 o'clock graveyard shift?
Yeah, we really
AM?
are living in sleep-deprived times because,
Yes.
a lot of people work
Work.
jet lag hours. Yes.
So is it the job? Then you have to quit your job. You can't sacrifice the brain.
Yes, not to mention that working when you should be asleep really messes with your body's rhythms.
Yes.
Recent research has shown that there is a stronger connection between the state of your body and the state of your mind than previously suspected.
Well, you hit it right on the nail, because sleep deprivation is number 1. Number 2 is the food intake.
Talk to me about food intake. How would that?
My idol is a doctor called Dr. Mark Hyman, who is in functional medicine. He himself suffered depression, and in that situation,
Please tell me what he ate that depressed him so I can throw it out of my refrigerator.
yes, too much
forever.
mercury from the fish that he ate in China. Too much mercury. So today, with all the plastics that we throw in the ocean, everything.
We're all ingesting tons
We
of
are
mercury.
we are ingesting it.
Was it in the Pacific where there is a floating island of plastic
Yes,
garbage?
you're correct. So when Dr. Mark Hyman suffered heavy mercury metals in himself, he went to Western, mainstream doctors. Nobody could find out what was wrong with him. He was getting thinner, he was getting sicker, and very
because
uncomfortable.
they weren't really looking at his diet.
No. So he finally had to go and meet with scientists who were doing lab tests.
Yeah, because I think that when people have their annual checkups, nobody measures the mercury level in your body. Yeah.
Never.
So let's interrupt this very intense conversation because I'm going to need to have something to drink. So Gamba, please bring us some water. I feel that after this conversation, water is the only safe thing to drink. This is our assistant, Gamba. Thank you.
Gamba.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Mr. Hyman who had the mercury problem.
Yes.
So
he was able to solve his problem.
How was he able to solve that?
He went very deep into the gut to
Yes.
find out how he could detox himself.
Yes. How do you detox yourself?
Natural juices, oils, and you detox. And he was
Does
able
it take
to.
a long time?
No. Me personally, I've done an 80-day detox. My husband, who had cancer 11 years ago, did an 18-day rest for a month, 12 days rest for a month. Then he did a 6-day, and then by that time, for 7 years, he never had a skin cancer come out of his skin.
That's it. I'm going to make a note to myself, detox. Okay. And so,
You feel good, and you look 20 years younger after it.
yes. And so, are there a lot of people doing this now where treating psychological issues through nutrition?
Yes, because psychonutrition is a new subject matter.
This is the first time I've ever heard
And
of it.
it's being
Psychonutrition.
taught in about 5 universities in the States. And in June, I'll be going to some of those universities to learn a bit more, hoping that we could do something similar in the Philippines.
Suppose, you have been paying attention to your emotional state. You realize that you are depressed. What should you do?
I always tell them that the number one is sleep, 8 hours. Number two is exercise. And there's a lot of technique now for sleeping. You have breathing, you have mindfulness, and you have music. And so many. So there's tapping, which they call emotional freedom technique. And you can find that under Dr. Mercola.
Okay.
Tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. Then you have again another very interesting guy, Nick Polizzi, who talks about the plant, but he's very pro-cannabis because cannabis is being used in America to treat depression.
So suppose you notice that a friend of yours is depressed. What should you do?
The best thing is to learn how to listen. So we have a program called peer counseling, and we're now working on other programs for the corporate world. But peer counseling, we hope that a lot of schools will adopt it for their student body, but they also have to pass a screening test because not everybody can be a peer counselor. That means learn how to listen, learn to be kind, learn to be compassionate.
And so what about, so your friends who are depressed, what can you do? You take them to
really
peer
have
counseling?
you really have to let them talk a lot.
Okay.
Once they talk over it, believe it or not, they find their own solution. Unless they're really, really very ill. So the challenge now is to get the youth to be part of an active, to be a stakeholder and say, I can make a difference. Once they feel that they're doing something, that they're helping the community, I think all of this, too much of being scared about what people think of them in Facebook, that they're not as good enough, I think this will all disappear. So I'm requesting the schools to give them more community service. And I've just been privileged to be invited to some schools, and I hope that we can always do some research on what makes them, the kids tick, what makes them sad, what makes them look at themselves, how they measure themselves. And there is now games that are being invented instead of the box, because somebody said, why do we check box? How often do I get depressed? What are my symptoms of depression? ABC, check the box. So there was a huge complaint from the youth population. I don't belong to a box. I'm not a box of symptoms. And I'm unique. That's what they're saying. Right now, there are 2 or 3 companies that are trying to figure out what games the youth can play, and they can themselves gauge if it's time for them to go to a psychiatrist.
That's an
and get
interesting
for help.
approach. Yes. I read recently that the United Kingdom now has a minister for loneliness.
Wow.
Yes, because they research shows that social isolation is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And so it's they have a minister of loneliness. Although Leo and I were talking about it, we said social isolation, that's kind of the opposite of what we have in the Philippines, where everyone gets in your face and you wish you could have a little bit of alone time because everyone is yelling at you.
But that loneliness, what do they do to help those people who are lonely? Is there anything that they can do?
I guess they have programs that will help people to treat their loneliness if they find that they have social isolation issues.
Maybe adopt a pet from SPCA for a week or something like that?
I've always thought that cats will cure
Do you think it does?
mental health problems. Well, it's my sanity maintenance. My sanity maintenance is
You talk to your cat.
8 to 9 hours of sleep a day, and then living with cats, and they diagnose me accurately. Of course, the fact that they speak to me may be a sign that
That's
my
wonderful.
mental health is not what it should be. But
That's wonderful. So you're a cat lover.
yes, and also another thing, I keep a journal.
Journaling, that's
Yes.
exactly what Oprah said.
Yeah, I've been doing it since I was 15 because I feel that if I don't write every day, it didn't happen. So I don't remember what happened during the day. I have to record it just so it makes sense to myself.
That's beautiful. I admire anyone who can journal every day.
Well, I am in the writing business, so
Yeah, but that's one of the biggest kits for survival.
and if people
Is journaling.
want to help with NGF programs, what do we do? How do we get in touch
Well,
with you?
a Hope Line, we have Hope Line, and I think I haven't really publicized myself in a big way because I feel that it's good when later on when we get the ball rolling, I should have enough capacity to be able to fill the need of people who need our help. So I'm in the process now of recruitment. Those who are teachers, those who are psychologists, they really are wonderful. They're part of a writing team, and I think everybody can help if they could agree to a Mind Strong movement that I wish to have, which is 10 pesos a month for a student to give to a school so that the schools don't say, Mrs. Goulbourn, we really want this program, but we have
but
no
we don't
money.
have budget.
That's a common thing that's given to me. And I tell you, I don't know what to react. You go to a corporate world and then somebody says, we need help. We have 3 who just jumped out of the building within a year, but we need help, but we don't have a budget. So I think it's the awareness first and then the consciousness that yes, every CEO, every manager, every HR supervisor, and even co-workers can do something.
For starters, we need more mental health professionals.
With the Mental Health Act, there will be a need really for all the companies, all the schools, the universities, even the agencies that send out OFW. Everybody has to comply. The compliance is, it's now legislated. The IRR signing was just 3 days ago.
Okay.
So it's now legislated that each one has to really have, a room for mental health, for mental wellness, and the fact that they have to hire people who can assist employees. We're just waiting for them to put in that psychiatry and psychology treatments can be part of an insurance package.
And so, the name of our show is the Sanity Maintenance Program, and in this particular episode, we have gone to the heart of the subject matter. So, thanks very much, Ms. Goulbourn.
Oh, you forgot to ask me.
What?
What keeps me sane?
Yes, what keeps you sane?
Believe it or not, I do pray a lot,
Okay.
and that keeps me sane. I somehow know how to give up and let go. And it took a lot of years of discipline. And even when I lost my daughter, it was an acceptance and letting go. So we can't be perfect. We have to stop pretending that we should be perfect or striving for it. But every day, just we'll do our best. And I think, and we'll enjoy life for whatever it is. Forgive and love. And that's it.